Hello everyone, my name is James from JB Design and Manufacturing. For those who have been following me, welcome back. For those who are new, welcome to the channel. Today's video is going to be based on a line of videos related to building a extender for the Ender 3 Pro. This extender is the 400XL. And I'll have a link to the manufacturer of the parts within the description. So stay tuned. Today's video will simply just be on how to dismantle the Ender 3 Pro so that you're ready to use the parts to create the Ender Extender 400XL. Alright, so first step to taking the printer apart is we need to take off the LCD screen. They can be removed. It can be removed by removing these two screws. When you remove the screen, there's going to be the connection in the back. Go ahead and remove that. Try not to pull from the actual wires. Grab the plug and pull it, or it might rip out the wires. That's how you remove it. Okay, so next step that we need to do is we need to remove our bed. So for me, I'll be removing this tape. Now that the tape is gone, take off my glass, put that aside. Now there's a couple ways we can go about removing the actual bed itself. Right now we have the magnetic bed on top. If you plan on keeping the magnetic bed, then there's a couple ways you can get rid of this. So one, you would actually take a razor knife and start picking up the corner and lifting it and trying to remove it. So you're going through all the adhesion that's holding it on there, trying to break that. You can eventually glue this back on using some kind of spray adhesive if you wish to do that. Or you can do it this way. So if you rub your finger across approximately where these screws are, you will feel, and press down, you will see a little divot start to be created. Okay, and that'll do it for each section. So you just feel around and press down. Okay, and you'll get a little bit of a divot. There you can take your knife and just simply slice around that to remove the magnetic portion, okay, of the bed, and that exposes your screw. Okay, this will still be just as magnetic even if you take out these 4 points, if you do plan on putting this back on. If you just have the screw top removed. So there's not enough magnetism to be removed to actually ruin it. Alright, so now that I've removed all the magnetic bed from just the tops of the screws, you see here, 4 points. What I'm going to do now is remove the screws. So I'm going to hold the wheel, put the screwdriver in, and then remove. Okay, make sure you do not lose your springs, and make sure you put these in a safe place for the time being. So what I'm going to do is actually just reinsert the screw onto the wheel, holds the spring, everything in place. I'm going to do this for the remaining 4. Okay, now that once you have all the wheels removed from this, the bed should come off just like this. and expose your carriage. I'm just going to put this aside for now. Okay, now the next step is going to be removing these screws or this top plate from the frame. So you can do that with your bigger Allen wrench, and we're just going to pop this off. Once you have these screws removed, then you can easily pop off the top. Just put it aside for now. Okay, now the next step is we're going to be taking this coupler off. You're going to see here, simply rotate until you can see where you remove it, and you're going to remove these two screws. Just like this. These, at least mine, are pretty tight and snug on there, so you might take a little bit of effort to take them off. You want to take off both of these. Okay, now when you got the two screws loosened, then what you're going to do is just simply, you can lift it up from the top here, and it should pop out. Now once the rod is out, we're going to place that aside. You can basically put this anywhere because we're no longer going to be using this. The top of here is going to drop because there's nothing really holding it up, so you can just go ahead and lower it to the bottom for the time being. Okay, so the next step we're going to be doing is we're going to be removing the end stop for the Z, as well as the Z motor itself. So just going to disconnect this, and we're going to disconnect the end stop. We're then going to go ahead and remove the wires from all the stepper motors. Okay, from the E, from the Y, and from your X. Okay. Also make sure that you disconnect the end stop inside here, and also the end stop for the Y behind the motor right here. Once we have all the wires disconnected from this, what we're going to do is raise this up and off the bars. Okay. Now we're going to be doing something with this in a second, so just keep it within reach because we got to remove the belts and other things. So to remove the belts, then what we need to do is loosen up these two here. So you need your Allen key. Once you loosen this up, then you should be able to loosen up this belt. And then what we're going to do is underneath here, we're going to be pulling this away from this clip here. Do it to the other side as well. Okay. And you can go ahead and pull this all the way out to fully remove it. Now once you have the belt off, then you can go ahead and put this aside, because the new belt that we're going to use is going to be much bigger. So go ahead and just put this in a storage place somewhere else. Okay, now what we're going to be doing is removing this motor for the X-axis, or the mount for this, I should say. And the way that we can take this off without actually unscrewing this is we're going to be accessing the two screws through these two holes, okay? And we're going to be unscrewing them. So there should be two screws, and you will be loosening them through here. Now once the screws are loose, this will come off. Just set it aside. And then what we're going to be doing is focusing on this side. And we're going to be taking this carriage off as well. Same Allen key will be used for this too. Once you have removed both plates on each side with the motor and the plate, then you can simply just take the hot end and remove it just like that. And we're going to place this aside as well. Next thing we need to do is remove the power supply. The way that you remove the power supply is by these two screws here. So what we're going to do first need to find the right size Allen key. That helps. Okay, we're going to loosen these two up, and we're going to pull this out the back side, as well as unplug the plug that's in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I want to go ahead and loosen these two screws. Okay, power supply is unscrewed. I'm going to remove it. Also place this aside for now. And I'm going to take these two screws out as well. Put them in a safe place because you're going to reuse them. Then while we're here, we can also remove this here for the stop, the Z stop. And what we're going to do, loosen that up. And just simply pull it off and put this aside as well, because we're using this too. Now, because this is a XL kit, what I'm going to have to do is remove these two screws. If you don't have an XL kit, you don't have to worry about that. So using an Allen key, you'll be removing these. Once you remove the screws, then you're just going to slide this out. Also put this aside. Next step is we are going to be removing this left side support. So we got to take this, flip it up so we have access to these bolts, and we're going to remove them. And this will only be removed for the XL kits, so just keep that in mind. And that was for the vertical supports. So loosening these two screws for the vertical supports, we're going to remove those. And again, this is only for the XL edition. Okay. Save the screws. And put the support beam aside for now. You're going to do this. You're going to remove this side here too, because we're going to be replacing this center beam that's in here and making this wider. Okay. Put your 4 screws aside, and then put this within reach because you'll be reusing this. Now we're going to do the same exact thing, this time for the opposite side. So again, you're only removing the vertical piece if you're doing the XL version. If you're not doing the XL version, then you actually keep this on this part, okay? But we got to remove this because we're going to replace this, and we got to remove this because we're going to, again, replace the center beam there. So all 4 screws and both screws underneath. Okay, next step, what we're going to be doing is, first of all, when you have taken this off, this will actually stay in place because it's connected to this box. No point in taking this off at this point, so just keep it on. We're going to flip this around so that we can see this Y-stop here. And we're going to go ahead and remove that Y-stop. Okay, I'm going to put the Y-stop aside. Keep it within reach because we were reusing it. And then the next step is removing this belt. And so we're going to have to loosen up the belt on this side here. And then we'll be able to take it off this plate. So loosen up the screws on the sides, on both sides. This should come in. And then you're just going to pull the belts out on each side and pull it through. Okay, screws are loosened. And now I'm just kind of pushing this forward so to loosen up the belt. Now I'm just going to simply slide this out. Slide it out to the other side as well. And then just pull it through. Go ahead and put this belt aside because we will be using a new belt for this for the longer version. Okay, next step we're going to be doing is moving this around, and we're going to go ahead and remove these screws to take this Y motor off. Once the Y motor has been taken off, just put the screws in a safe place because we were using them, and put this in a safe place as well. Okay, go ahead and roll the back plate or the bed plate off. And go ahead and take this off the front. Go ahead and use an Allen key to remove the plate for the box here. And we're going to remove that. Also, go ahead and flip this over, and we're going to remove these 3 screws as well. Once you have the cover off, my suggestion would be to disconnect the fan so that you can put the lid aside for now. Just remember where that connects to. But at this point, you do not need to disconnect any of the wires. Go ahead and remove these 2 screws over here so that we can remove this bar. Okay, once the screws are removed, then you'll be able to remove this and keep this with you because we will be modifying that in a second. For the time being, we're just going to rest this aside, and then we're going to make sure we grab these 2 parts here because we need to remove these off of it. So what you may need to do to remove these back sides for both of these is probably a screwdriver, a pair of pliers or something, but you need to be able to pry these off. Now when you remove these inside, you should be looking at, sorry about that. Okay, inside you should be looking at these holes here. If they're threaded, you're good. If they're not, you're going to have to thread them yourself using a tap and die. That's going to be an M5 size. Okay. Okay. Next step is I'm going to remove this from, or just remove this in general. We won't need either of these parts. And that concludes the disassembly of the Ender 3 Pro. Now don't be depressed. Even if your printer was calibrated pretty well, you will be making this in a much larger size and it's going to look a lot nicer. So next step is going to be actually building or putting all the parts together to make this printer bigger. Okay, so that's going to do it for today's video. Stay tuned. I'll have another video shortly up showing you how to actually assemble the Ender extender once the Ender 3 Pro has been dismantled. So stay tuned. If you wish to be notified when this video comes up, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell. So have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time.